Hey, welcome back. I'm Keith Barry.
I'm Emily Thomas.
I'm Michael Crossan.
And we are going to answer your questions today. Back by popular demand, it's an all questions episode of Talking Cars. If you have questions, send them to talkingcars@icloud.com. That's the best way to reach us. We're going to get right into it. Susan says, I have a 2003 Honda CR-V that was my mother's car before she passed. It is super basic, no bells and whistles at all, not even a fob. It only has 130,000 miles on it. I enjoy driving the car, but sometimes I wish I had a few extras. My mechanic told me to never sell the car as it was so simple he could fix almost anything on it. However, it's 22 years old and I want a car that's reliable enough to take some road trips. Should I just keep repairing it as needed or should I consider something new? All right. What do we think? Michael, why don't you start off?
I mean, Susan, your mechanic is not wrong. This car, you should keep it. This car could always be fixed unless it's like catastrophic rust, basically. It is cheap to run, cheap to maintain, cheap to repair. It's been around a while. There's no problem that could come up that is unsolvable or that would be like a mystery. All the different ways this CR-V can fail are known to the world. So that's really nice. So I think your mechanic is totally right. But I do get the aspect of the fact that it is super basic and you might want some bells and whistles. I might consider like upgrading the radio, something that has CarPlay and a backup camera. That might make it feel a little bit more modern and give you some of those kind of convenience features that you're lacking in a vehicle such as this. But then I know Emily's going to comment on sort of the safety aspect of it. So I think as long as you're comfortable with the current safety level, both passive and active of the vehicle, I would personally keep it. Plus, I would have trouble getting rid of my mom's car, too. So there's that aspect as well.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, you don't have to get rid of it if you get a new car. What do you think?
Yeah, now you're going to go down the nostalgic route.
Yeah. You can keep it.
You can keep it for the memories, for sure. I would say, if you're not going to replace it, at least get a new car that you can drive. For the very reason that Crossan pointed out, a lot of safety has changed since 2003. You kind of want to be able to level the playing field for yourself when you're out on the road amongst like modern day vehicles. So even things like electronic stability control and anti-lock brakes were only standard with the 2012 model year in the United States.
Wow.
Backup cameras became standard in 2018. Now pretty much every new car comes with standard automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection, forward collision warning. There's so many new safety features, and crash protection has changed so much since 2003. So even if you looked at the crash ratings for your 2003 Honda CR-V, and I think you were going to point out like even just a newer model of the CR-V, significant changes in crash protection ratings. So I think it's worthwhile to put yourself at par with the vehicles that are on the road and get yourself the most safety that you can afford.
I mean, I kind of agree with both of those things. And I love a simple car.
Absolutely.
And I absolutely get the point of, they don't make them like they used to, except they do. Susan, guess what I found for you? 2023 or newer Honda HR-V. The HR-V is about an inch longer than the 2003 CR-V that you have. It has a newer version of the 2-liter K-Series engine, so it still is tried and true, a little more updated, but it has all of those safety features and crash protection that Emily was talking about. And we're not talking about features just for the sake of them. These aren't bells and whistles. These are, things like AEB, things like electronic stability control. These are proven to prevent crashes.
Yeah.
These aren't just things that you get because they're cool or those features are out there. HR-V doesn't have them. As far as a car is as far as it is as a car, it's fine. It's not going to win any drag races, but compared to your 2003, it's going to feel like a sports car. So that's what I say.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can go back and you can buy a brand new 2003 CR-V. It's just called an HR-V. Kyle from San Antonio, Texas asks, I plan to move to the Pacific Northwest next year, and I'm in the market for a hybrid subcompact with all-wheel drive. Naturally, the 2026 Subaru Crosstrek appears to check all my boxes. But with that said, this will be the first year for the hybrid Crosstrek with a reintroduced hybrid system, and I am curious about your thoughts on the reliability risk I might be accepting with going for the 2026 model and not waiting for a future year. I see it is still considered to be in year 3 of the current Crosstrek generation. So is this less risk than a typical first-year model not being a full redesign? Just to kind of give a little background there, CR loves to say, because it's true, that, cars tend to have bugs in their first year after a major redesign, so wait a year or two. And also, the Crosstrek, like he says, it's adding a new powertrain to an existing vehicle. I believe you had some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, generally, we do say avoid that new model, right? And that's pretty good advice. I would say if you were going to buy a new model, this might be the one to do because of the fact that the Crosstrek has existed. There's a new powertrain, plus all the hybrid stuff in this case is from Toyota. And it's existing Toyota stuff that they've kind of brought in. So I feel better about that. There probably still will be some growing pains with it, because they did have to sort of incorporate all this new stuff in this chassis. But I would say it's probably the best case scenario for, a new model, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, we hear back in our owner satisfaction surveys and our reliability surveys about Toyota hybrid powertrains that last 500,000 miles. And, so I would agree. Get a Crosstrek?
Go ahead. I mean, we're seeing that happen with other vehicles too, right? I think even our CX-50 hybrid has the Toyota system.
It does, yeah.
In it. So in this case, you'll get all the things that you love about having a Subaru, but you'll get to drive a Toyota hybrid, which typically comes with great reliability and, you'll have great fuel economy for sure.
And that all-wheel drive system that's only in the Subaru.
Correct.
So, Kyle, you've done your homework. You have our blessing. Exactly. Michael from Ann Arbor, Michigan says, I own a 2025 Toyota Camry XSE with all-wheel drive. I've enjoyed the styling and features, both safety and otherwise, all while having great fuel economy. But there is one thing that has been bothering me, and that is the ride quality. As good as the 19-inch wheels look, the tires don't absorb the rough roads in Michigan well, and it can make some drives bumpy and unpleasant. I'm considering reducing the wheel size to allow for higher profile tires that'll have the same ground clearance but can handle rough roads better. What are the pros and cons would there be to changing the wheel size, and is it something I should consider? Well, we do this sometimes. We're going to send this over to Ryan Pizlikowski, who's over in our tire building, live from the tire building. We're going to hook up to the satellite. Ryan, can you hear me?
Hi, Michael. Great question. You're not alone in this. I've read several complaints actually about the ride quality. The Camry is not exactly a sports car. It's a great car, but it doesn't necessarily need 19-inch wheels on it either. And I've also driven on the roads in Michigan, and yeah, they're kind of rough, right? So the pros and cons of going to a smaller wheel size, but keeping the same overall diameter, obviously. Mostly pros, really. You're going to get cheaper tires. The 19-inch tires are expensive, as you probably know. 17-inch tires would be a little cheaper. I looked at, the General Ultimac RT45, for instance, was almost $50 cheaper per tire from going from the 19 down to the 17. Now, I did do a quick research, make sure you can do that. What happens is sometimes you run into the brakes getting in the way of the wheels, which is why they have these bigger wheels on a lot of these cars, because they're trying to clear the brakes. You should be able to do the 17s, but definitely confirm that before you spend the money on those wheels, just to confirm. But and they're less prone to damage. They should ride a little better because now you have some more rubber, a little more compliance there in the sidewall. Other than looks, your steering feel, you might lose a little bit of that sportiness in the steering, but even that kind of depends on the tires you do put on there. You might not notice anything. And obviously the tires that came on your car were V speed rated. So you want to obviously keep the same speed rating. You don't want to go lower than that. And make sure you do the right size. Within the 17 would be a 215, 55, 17. But definitely do your research on the wheels. Make sure you get the right wheels and they do clear the brakes. I'd love to know how you make out. Let us know. Take care. Good luck.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I think there's a problem there, right?
Well, I mean, Ryan has really good points, and everything he said is correct. I did a little bit of research as far as what Toyota offers in terms of wheels, because I really like OEM wheels. I feel like they're just of a better quality in terms of, the robustness and less chance of bending them and things like that. So for the new Camry, there's a 19-inch choice, which Michael has. There's 18-inch wheels and then a 16-inch wheel. So it's missing the 17, which I think is like the Goldilocks choice. It would be just right. The 16s are going to offer the best of like sort of the ride comfort stuff, but they're 16-inch wheels and they're going to look kind of dorky. So there is that. So I guess Michael's going to have to kind of decide what is most important. And then Michael may want to actually explore aftermarket wheels as well. Just make sure that they actually fit properly, that they're going to clear the brakes and that the offset and everything is right for the vehicle. But I definitely think it's a smart move. The 19s, while they look cool and it makes it a little sporty, it's not the best for ride quality.
John from Milton, Pennsylvania says, I am a long time CR subscriber, so I offer this critique with love. Uh-oh. That is, and those are, how can CR give a behemoth like the Ford Expedition or any other lumbering hulk a positive review? The very size of the beast and the myriads of pickup trucks that are 3 times the size they need to be are posing serious dangers to pedestrians and other drivers, and you yourselves have said as much. You don't mention EPA figures for gas mileage. I know I'm butting my head against sacred doors for gearheads, but let's stop glorifying oversized motor vehicles that need not be as big as they are in order to permit Americans to carry what they need to carry for a vacation. My daughter's lived in the UK for 18 years, and she is appalled when she visits and sees the size of our motor vehicles. Thanks for listening to my gripe. I still love you. I mean, a lot of that, John, honestly, I agree with a lot of that. Exactly. And, I know in the UK, it's a little different, but, I lived in Europe for a while and it's a problem there too. People are buying the biggest cars that fit. It's just that things fit a lot. We can fit a lot more in our roads and our parking lots, but there are some ways that we are getting at that issue in our testing, right, Emily?
Yeah, I think it's important to know that, what his critique is saying that, we're giving a positive review. And I would say that we are putting the vehicle through the same set of tests that we put every car through. And we let the data speak for itself. So if the vehicle performs well in a test, we're going to say that. We're not going to be like, well, it has a good score, but it's bad. Right?
Yeah, it fits a lot, but it's, yeah.
So every test is different. It's designed so that, we can evaluate different aspects of the vehicle. There are going to be parts of the vehicle that do well, and that's going to be spoken about well. And then there's going to be parts of the vehicle that do poorly. But it's our job as testers and reviewers to really let the data speak for itself. Now, that being said, though, there are obviously safety implications for large vehicles, which you've totally pointed out here, John, and I agree with you like 100%. When it comes to crash avoidance and blind zones, yes, these vehicles are behemoths, and they typically don't do well in our track dynamic testing that relates to crash avoidance, like our braking tests or emergency handling, right? When it comes to being able to see the pedestrian target in front of the hood, that can often be a challenge for some of these vehicles. However, when it comes to crash protection, they tend to work in your favor just because of physics, right? You're bigger than all the other cars on the road. So you have to look at safety and you have to look at the vehicle holistically. You want something that's not just going to protect you in a crash. You want something that's going to help you avoid a crash, and finding that right balance will be important. So I think we are doing a pretty balanced job of explaining the test results, whether that's good, bad, whatever it is, but also giving you kind of this holistic view of the vehicle. Because for some people, right, they do need that larger vehicle. They are lugging around a bunch of sports gear.
A bunch of kids that all play hockey, or you have a boat, or a couple of horses, and you need a vehicle that can pull 8, 9, 10,000 pounds. So, and also, we're on the East Coast here, but that's different than the West Coast of the U.S. There's a lot more space, really big highways. People travel really long distances between places. So sometimes these things can sort of fit that bill and be nice to drive. And I think it's all use case, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, if, John, if you are a subscriber, you can look at our ratings of vehicles and you might be able to see on I don't want to give away too much information for free, but if you look at our ratings of pickup trucks, if you look at our ratings of SUVs, the numbers tend to get a little, go from light green to yellow the bigger the vehicle gets. And that is because of those inherent compromises in those vehicles. So I think, our advice is, only buy that vehicle if you need it. Don't buy it because it looks cool. Buy it because it can tow 9,000 pounds if you need to tow 9,000 pounds. Right. Because otherwise, you're going to have 20 feet longer stopping distances. You're going to have kind of lumbering handling. You're going to have gas mileage in the teens. And you're right. Most folks can get away with something that's smaller than that. Yeah. So no, it's important stuff to talk about, and your fingers on the pulse of a lot of things, John. So thanks for writing that in. Isabel from Williston, Vermont asks, I am looking to buy a certified pre-owned 2023 Kia Sportage EX hybrid all-wheel drive with 40,000 miles. I live in Vermont. Is the $999 extra cost for undercoating worth it as we head from snow season to mud season in Vermont? You know something about undercoating, right?
I know something about rust.
Okay. I think we all unfortunately know something about rust.
Rust is a battle that I fight all the time. And I'm a mechanic. I'm not like a fabricator or like a body guy. So I try to buy vehicles that the body is in really good shape, so I don't have to deal with any of that. If you live somewhere where it snows and they use salt, you're going to fight this rust battle too. This is a 23, so it's not that old, 40,000 miles. Again, not a ton of miles. I would want to know, where this vehicle lived its life. Was it from Vermont or did it come from somewhere else? Because this is not a new car, and there's going to be some level of dirt and corrosion underneath the body and chassis of this vehicle. And $1,000 for undercoating, I mean, no, just no. It's too much money, and you don't want to go with traditional undercoating. That's the rubberized, thick, heavy black goo that they spray up under the car. There's better choices out there. This old school undercoating, especially on a used vehicle, it basically locks in all that grit and grime and nastiness. It just covers it up. It's like putting makeup all over it. You don't know what's underneath. And before it's too late, a couple years later, it's going to start peeling off along with chunks of the body of the vehicle. It just locks in all that grossness, and it kind of makes it worse. It lets it fester. There are some products out there called like wool wax or fluid film. It's more like a lanolin based kind of like waxy.
Wool wax?
Yeah, wool wax or fluid film.
Lanolin, like a sheep.
Exactly.
And fluid fill. All
so
right.
They're a little bit lighter in terms of weight. They're a little more of a liquid, right? They're not so gummy. They can get into all the nooks and crannies. Some of it will come off over time as you drive in the rain and stuff. But the idea is that you have it reapplied every year or two, and it just does generally a better job. It also doesn't mask it, so you can kind of see what's going on underneath. It's mostly like opaque. And that's going to run you about $200 to $300 to apply. So every couple of years you do that. In the long run, it might cost a little more, but that $1,000 for the dealership undercoating, 100% avoid that at all costs.
Well, I really hope that we answered your question before you bought the car, Isabel. So, but yeah, advice for other folks there too. But the other good news is that a lot of cars now have, newer cars especially, the factory rust proofing is light years ahead of where it
gets
was.
better every year.
Yeah.
They dip the cars, better materials, better seam sealers and things like that. So there are improvements.
And warranties as well. On rust too.
Yeah, for rust perforation, which that means holes. It doesn't mean surface rust or like corrosion a little bit on like suspension components. It's body perforation, so it's something that you can like put a finger through, basically.
Well, if you have that problem, then yeah.
That's a different.
Yeah, you have another problem there. Chris from Missouri sent us an email with, now we almost didn't look at this because we thought it was a scam, but it said, help spend my money. But we opened it and it turned out it was a legitimate email. And Chris says, I'm looking for suggestions to replace my 2017 Mazda 6 daily driver. Good choice, since it's got over 120,000 miles and I'm starting to get concerned about its long-term reliability. Looking to buy new or 1 or 2 years old and stay 40,000 to 50,000. I would like a mid-sized sedan or a compact crossover. Fuel economy, reliability, and tech and safety features are top priorities, and having a little more power and keeping some degree of engaging driving dynamics would be appreciated. I drive 60 miles round trip each workday. All right, let's go around and pick a vehicle. Who wants to go first? Emily, why don't you go first?
I'll just go first. Mine's probably not going to be as exciting as your guys', so we'll get mine out of the way.
You have no idea what I've chosen.
Well, that already makes it more exciting. I can only guess. So I picked a 2025 Toyota Camry, the XLE. Now, given one of the earlier questions, maybe don't go with those 19-inch tires. But I do like that it has great fuel economy. You have that Toyota reliability that you can count on. It has standard advanced driving assist systems like your AEB with pedestrian detection, AEB highway speed capable. You're going to get standard blind spot warning and rear cross traffic warning on this vehicle as well, and adaptive cruise control, which I love to have. You also get heated front seats, which is really nice at that trim line. So from our logbook, the guys seem to think that it's engaging enough to drive and has a little sportiness to it. So I think it checks off most of the boxes. And with your commute only being like 60 miles round trip, it'll be quite a while before you really have to fill up. So I think that'll be nice to be able to save some money.
It's funny. We have our cars that we buy, and every so often, we get to choose them to drive home and to spend more time with them. And there's a lot of miles on that Camry, and there's a lot of car enthusiasts here. That car is almost always signed out.
Yeah.
It is not your, it's not your Camry from 10 years ago. It is it's a bit of it's peppy and it's a hybrid, but you don't notice. What do you think?
Well, I'm glad I didn't pick the Camry, but I did pick another Toyota. So I went with the Toyota Crown. However, I have a caveat.
Crown or the Crown Sig?
The regular Crown.
Regular Crown. Okay.
The only way to get this, though, is the 2.4 Turbo Hybrid Max is what they call it. Do not get the 2.5. Our test car had the 2.5. Bit of a dog.
Yeah.
The 2.4 Turbo Hybrid Max, we had borrowed one of those from Toyota back when the Crown was coming out, and it was great. Tons of power. And I think that really adds to sort of the driving enjoyment coming out of a Mazda. Mazdas generally drive pretty good. And I think the Crown sort of just needs that, I don't want to say larger engine because it's actually smaller, but the more powerful engine option, I think really helps.
Yeah. That was that and the Crown Signia, which is the kind of wagony SUV version of it, were on my list. But I decided, I saw that 1 to 2 years old and 40 to 50,000. And I thought about I used to have a real long commute and getting into a nice, comfy car at the end of the day, I say Lexus ES Hybrid. You get almost the same fuel economy as the Camry. Okay. You get a nicer interior than the Crown. And I would say go a year or two older, used. Don't go any older because they used to have this horrible infotainment system. It was called Lexus Remote Touch.
Oh, yeah.
It had this like mouse and touchpad thing.
That was bad. Don't do that.
Don't do that. But the newer ones just have a traditional screen on them. Great car, real comfy place to spend some time. When we had one here, it was signed out all the time. It was one of the most popular cars we had.
I want to point out that we all basically picked a Camry, though.
Yeah, we did. We picked a Toyota Hybrid.
My choice wasn't that bad then.
Yeah, Emily's right.
It was pretty on par.
Maybe the CX-50 hybrid? Oh wait, no, that's a Toyota hybrid too. Oh God. Okay. Well, Chris, we've told you how to spend your money. Please tell us what you got.
Tell us if you ignored our Camry options altogether.
Seriously, and you went and got something. You got a Corvette. Whatever. Life is short. All right, we got a couple more questions. Trevor says, I have no idea how you all come up with new model year predicted reliability. A car will have a score consistently above average reliability for like the last six or more years, but its 2025 reliability estimate is just average. Can you explain? We could, but I think you want Steve Ellick to do that, our statistics wizard and expert. So over to you, Steve.
Hey, Trevor, that is a great question. And the answer to that is we look at the last 3 model years that we have. So to come up with the 2025 rating, we look at the 2022, 23, 24. And if we have early data on the 25, then we apply that to the 2025 new car predicted reliability, unless there is a redesign during that time. So say there's a redesign in 2024, then we only look at whatever years after that we have, because we know that redesigns tend to have different problems than the previous generation. It really is that we get new survey data every year. So when we ask people, we ask, what problems have you experienced in the last 12 months? So for that reason, our survey data resets every year. And the combination of those two things mean that the data can change. Now, a good example of what you're saying is the Toyota Camry. It was redesigned in 2025, and we actually had enough 2025 data to come up with a prediction, because that's when the redesign was for the Camry. And now the Camry was average because of that redesign. It had issues, as we see many redesigns have. So, even Toyota isn't immune to that kind of thing. They introduce new in-car electronics, infotainment system. Maybe they have some problems with that. There could be some problems when new components are introduced. And that's what happened to the Camry. It's well above or above average. The last, I don't even know how many years, they come up with a redesign, and, they are only average now. I tend to think, because I see this data year after year, that the Camry will probably fix that. Their growing pains will be over. They'll learn some lessons. And I think they'll probably start to improve, especially because of the way Toyota is. So hope that answers your question. Thank you for it, and keep them coming. I love the reliability questions.
Now, Steve is in an undisclosed location because we are calculating our reliability scores. He's in the bunker and secure from any outside influence. So we'll let him out. We'll let him out soon. He's in his car-shaped bunker right now. James has a question. Several people on this podcast have said they don't like one-pedal driving because the regenerative braking, is too aggressive. This is crazy. Just don't let off the accelerator all the way immediately. The level of regen is determined by how much you lift your right foot. Lift slowly, and you will come to a nice, gentle stop with no one getting sick.
That's not really a question, James.
Yeah, I don't see a question mark in there. Thank you for writing in.
Yes.
But yeah, I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of one-pedal driving. My reason why is because I got a little, I'm getting older, and having my, that level of control with my foot on a long drive or in stop and go traffic, my foot gets tired. So I don't really like it. Plus, I'm used to driving gas-powered cars and hybrids. But what do you folks do when you have regen in a car?
If possible, I turn it all the way down to off.
Yeah.
I do like an EV that can coast. Sometimes regen is nice if you're in stop and go traffic. It does give you a little bit of flexibility. But I mean, I do fuel economy testing. So driving all the gas cars and hybrids out on the highway, and we don't use cruise control for that. So we have to maintain 65. So I mean, I think I have a pretty decently calibrated foot, and I still have trouble with some vehicles on regen. There's whatever level that they can regen at, a full lift is simply just too much. So you kind of you're working within this zone, and it's not so bad as a driver, but passengers, you can see them rocking back and forth, and people in the back get a little queasy and things like that. There's sort of better ways to handle it, right? And I think we like the cars that have the paddles, would have 2 or 3 levels of regen that you can choose.
Yeah.
So you're still working that zone within your foot, but it kind of changes the scale a little bit. It makes it a little more, it makes it a little easier and a little maybe more pleasant.
Yeah, we've been working with regen for several years now at this point. And so I highly doubt that any one of the testers is just like taking their foot just like full off of the gas when driving and testing with these. Even with the light lift, you can still have a pretty significant regen. Now, some of the vehicles, you can adjust it, right? Like you said, with the paddle shifters, or there's something in, God forbid, the menu that like lets you adjust your regen
While you're driving.
Right? It's so great. But I like the ones that give me some flexibility where I can kind of choose what level of regen I'm going to have. Some of our drivers do like it really high because they like that kind of like really sporty, rock yourself kind of driving. And I like something that's a little bit more comfortable. So I will often choose like the mid to low. If the low is still too aggressive, I will just turn it off. But I think it really just kind of depends on your driving style. It has to do with how the manufacturer has tuned it as well. Like if they're giving you flexibility, then that's great, because not everybody's going to want that experience. Even if they are getting an EV, that doesn't mean that you want to have that ability.
And maybe not even right off the bat. Maybe that you need to ease into that aspect of EV ownership.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When we first started driving EVs here at the track, like I absolutely hated one pedal driving because it was just too much for me. I needed a learning curve and some lead-in time. I needed to phase it in to like my driving style to be comfortable with it. So now that's more, I'm more used to it and I can do that. But I think it really depends on the person, and it depends on how the manufacturer has implemented it. They're not all created equal by any means. To your point, it's a very different experience for the passenger as well. And if you're somebody who like already gets kind of motion sick in cars, like I wouldn't recommend it. I would just say turn it off. Like don't play that game.
Yeah, I mean, I get car sick as a passenger. Which is funny for someone who tests cars, but I'm okay if I'm the driver. But there was a couple of days where Joe and I we sort of did some investigation as to the G forces of regen. And some cars are up to about a half a G, sometimes even spiking a little bit more. And I was the unfortunate passenger running sort of the equipment in all of this. And there were a couple of times where I was like, oh, Joe, we need to stop for a second. And I needed a couple of minutes to sort of compose myself. Yeah. So, I mean, it's quite a lot. That half a G or so is borderline on an uncomfortable stop in terms of a rate of slowdown, and having that be sort of unexpected because the driver maybe moved or shifted in the seat or twitched their foot a little bit. It's one thing if you see brake lights in front of you and you're expecting a stop, but just that sort of unexpected heavy slowdown, I think is a lot for passengers.
Yeah.
Well, there's your answer, James. And next time, we've run out of time now, but we'll take you on a tour of our foot calibration center where we all have to go in and get our feet calibrated. Thank you so much for sending your questions to talkingcars@icloud.com. Keep them coming. We'll do more All Questions episodes soon to get through them. Thanks for talking cars with us.